All right, so now we're going to take the experience that we knew already in grade 10 and apply it to a grade 12 question. So we're going to factor first. Once we have it in factored form, then we can just go that step further and solve. So here we don't have a quadratic though, so we don't have a little gimmick to go off and solve the quadratic. We've got a, what is it, a cubic. So in this cubic, then we have to go through the process of factoring. So let's remind ourselves, what's the first step when we go off and try and factor something like this? Guess. We have to guess. We have to guess a root. And we can have an educated guess because we know it at least has to be a multiple of 3. And for no apparent reason, I will tell you to guess 2. So guess 2. Oh, not 2, 3, sorry. 3. I'll show you because what I probably would have done is guessed 1 first, which would have been 4 minus 12 minus 1 plus 3. And that gets me, I don't know, something, but it's not 0. I could try negative 1. I could tell you that's not going to work. So I'm going to go to 3. 4 times 3 cubed minus 12, 3 squared, minus 3 plus 3. So that's 4 times 27 minus 12, 9 minus 3 plus 3. And after a little bit of math, I figure out that the answer is 0. So it turns out that 3 does work. And so you immediately know one of the factors. What's the factor? X minus 3 is a factor. Now, unfortunately, we can't just guess all the time and just get all the factors. And in fact, I know that you would even guess what the other ones are because they're fractions. So you were able to guess at least one of them. Go in, make sure that it does work. You get a remainder of 0, so you know that x minus 3 is a factor. So now, once we know that x minus 3 is a factor, we're going to divide it to get the other parts. We're going to use synthetic division. So off here, we're going to take the original and the coefficients, which are 4, negative 12, negative 1, and 3. And we divide by x minus 3, which means when we go synthetic, we need the root, which is just plain old 3. Do our synthetic division. So we get 4, a 0, a negative 1, and a remainder of 0. Again, if we don't have a remainder of 0, well, there's a problem because we said this was a factor, so it should have no remainder. All right, so now we've taken this. We know one of the factors is x minus 3. And we divide it out. It turns out we end up with a 4, a 0, and a negative 1, which translates to 4x squared plus 0x minus 1. So now we would hope that that second thing that we had is factorable. Looking at it in this fashion doesn't look like it's factorable. I'm going to write it like this though. I don't really need that 0, do I? So I'm just going to go like that. Now does it look factorable? What type of factoring is it? It's difference of squares. So luckily this is a nice little difference of squares. You square root the first, which is 2x. Square root the last, which is 1. Put a plus between one of them and a minus between the other. Does it matter which one's a plus or a minus? No. And so have we successfully factored this question? Absolutely. On 2 days ago, we would have just stopped there and said, hey, we factored. But now we're solving. So we go the step further. This is actually equal to 0. Whoa. So we don't need these equal signs here. But now we can go off and set each of them equal to 0, just like we did in the first two examples. Now, you hopefully will be able to get the answers right away. So what are the answers? Well, this one gets me 3. This one is a negative 1/2, because you have to divide by 2. And this one is going to be a positive 1/2. And so therefore, we have 3 answers. X equals 3, negative 1/2, and positive 1/2. Or we would write it as a solution set. 3, negative 1/2, and 1/2. You can do it either way. So you wouldn't do this all the time, but now we could pull out our graphing calculator just to double check that in fact we've done this correctly. So I'm going to go with my graphing calculator, put in the equation. So it's 4x cubed minus 12x squared minus x plus 3, and graph that. And luckily we can see most of the answers right there. If we push trace, we should be able to come see at least that 0 right there. So there's one of the answers, 3, and you see the y is 0, so that's one of the zeros. The other two are supposed to be a half according to our math. So it doesn't come up nicely when I go through the little things here. So I can actually type in 0.5, and it goes directly to x equals 0.5, and you see y is 0. And I could also type in negative 0.5, and it does go to the other one. And so you see my 3 answers. So our factoring and all the work that we did in this question is indeed correct.